And we're back. What's up, everybody? This is episode 24 of the AI Code Central podcast, potentially a work in progress name. We're not sure yet.
Yes.
So
We'll see.
I am here with Mallory Lohr, formerly with Bolt.new, Mallory, the community and brand expert, and Connor Douglas, the paid marketer
Yo.
expert,
What up?
and myself, I'm on the SEO side of things. So, this episode, we do not have a guest interview. It's more going to be Mallory driving the bus
Let's
on.
go.
Well, yeah. Can you shed more, what will
Okay.
our listeners get out of this? Because,
Yes.
like we were saying before, I hit record and we were bullying each other.
Yeah, they
That
were already bullying me. I'm like, "Ugh, we're gonna go through this exercise today, but we don't know. Like, I don't understand anything that's not measurable." I'm like, oh gosh. Okay. So what we're doing today, Sorry. everyone. No, it's okay. It's good. This is good. Is so when I approached the two of them and started talking with them, or they approached me, I should say, about joining them on the podcast, the one sort of bold thing I mentioned to them is that, hey, love the idea, love that we're all three of us are coming together, but I think we can improve the brand. For example, I think we can improve the name, we can improve like sort of the visual identity. And so, and they're funny. They're like, "You're coming in hot." I'm like, "Yeah, but I think we could level
love
this
it.
up.
We
If you're gonna
love
have a
it.
brand marketer come
We,
on to the pod with you
yes,
guys, right? Like, we gotta. I think we can make it pop a little bit more." And so today we're gonna kind of go through the process of brainstorming what that brand evolution could look like by sort of answering some key questions that we really want the three of us to get aligned on so that we can move forward in sort of ideating a new name and thinking through potential new logo and how we position ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to watch us go through a live workshop together today. And then, if you're in the process of either establishing your own brand for a product that you're working on, or perhaps you're working on a product or brand that's pivoting in a new direction, and that means the brand also needs to change as well, which is kind of what's going on here. This will kind of give you a little bit of a sneak peek as to how you can go about doing that or how you can get started on making that happen.
So stay tuned and watch and take notes if you need it. So it's going to be super insightful. And Mallory, really quick too, like what, when you look at a brand, what kind of tells you, like, do you look for key identifiers or something to say like, yeah, this brand needs work? Or is it kind of just like a as needed basis, right? Like you looked at ours and you're like, yeah, this might need some work based on what? Like what goes on in your mind?
That's a great question. I think it's a mix of a few things. When I visit a website for the first time, there's two things that tend to stand out to me immediately. I want to know who you are and what you do. And a lot of the times I stumble upon a website and I'm reading a tagline or description that gives me an idea about what the product or the brand could be about, but I actually read it and I become more confused. So when I see
Mm,
things like that, that's automatically like okay, interesting. Like, how can we refine this? How can we sharpen it so that anyone who lands on this page within a matter of 2 seconds understands what you do and who you're for, right?
yep.
So that's the first thing. Second thing for me, and this is maybe because I'm a visual person, but I do think that this matters not just within marketing pages, but if you do consumer products as an example, right? You're going down the grocery aisle and you're shopping, or you're even looking for a new book at the library or bookstore, right? Like the second thing that I see is the visual aesthetic and the design and of the space, right? And the page itself. So um and like whether or not it like needs improving, like does it go with the flow of what they're trying to actually sell?
Yep.
Right. And so, yeah, I kind of like take a look at those two things first. And it's more of like the visual piece is more of like a vibe check, right? Like
Hmm.
it's like, am I like kind of the right consumer or person for this product and or this brand? And we all have our own, sort of tastes and aesthetics on depending on what product or brand that we're looking at. And so that matters to me. Obviously, like the product being reliable itself, and being of quality is very, very important. But when it comes to first impressions, that does matter to me to
Yeah,
some
no, that
extent.
it's just super cool
So
because it's like coming from, the performance marketing thing. Again, we're kind of jabbing at each other here and there, but still it works. It all works collectively, right? Like the branding piece complements the
Yeah.
performance marketing piece in some capacity because I look at a website and I'm not looking for those things at all, right? I'm like, okay, CTA placement, UI, UX, flow, like what does the
Yep.
sitemap look like? Like Charlie, that's a thing you would look at, right? And it's like it's
H1
just
and
so
keywords. Yeah.
insightful and funny in some capacity to look at it when someone's like brand marketing, right? Like what you look at as compared to what I would look for. And even Charlie, you'd probably look for something totally different than what we look for from an
Yep.
SEO perspective. So again, it's
Yeah.
the meeting of the minds here is awesome. So again, you guys are going to get a lot of good information out of it.
Yeah.
But the branding piece is just something that just goes so over my head that I'm just really excited to
And,
kind of jump into this thing.
and look, like all of these things in my mind work together. Like if you're able to nail down the CT, because the CTA is important, right? Like all of those things, like you need to make sure you're, placing that CTA button in a place that's actually going to capture a lead or a sign up,
Hmm.
right? Like conversion
Yep.
matters. And so all of these things kind of play together, but unfortunately, I think when it comes to the branding piece, a lot of it is so subjective that sometimes it does become difficult to measure. But for the brands that, really stand out, it clearly is a differentiator for them. And
Hmm.
it does actually can lead to conversion. So
Yeah.
when all of these
Cool.
things are, working together in harmony.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Awesome. Good. Let's do this because yeah, you can clearly tell that the name and the direction of the podcast when it started was created by an SEO guy. So yeah, that's going to need some work. Excited for this. And before we hit go on this, before we floor it on this, as we record on November 4th, Halloween was over the weekend. As we catch up real quick here, how
Ah,
was
yes.
Mallory? How was your Halloween weekend?
Okay, I don't think my weekend was nearly as exciting as you two, but as I was recovering from being sick, which was not fun, but dressed up as a coastal cowgirl and was able to go trick-or-treating with my niece and nephew on golf carts with some sick candy. I saw a 6'7" pumpkin, which made me realize how old I am. And then this neighborhood had like a bunch of tables where they were giving adults wine. So I'm like, okay, like this is bougie. Like
That's pretty good.
this is the Halloween experience that I should have gotten when I was growing up. So honestly, I can't complain and had brunch with some friends this weekend and
Nice.
um, just chilled and rested up and here we are. So honestly, I don't have a lot of great updates because I was a little sickies.
I feel like I
Mm.
wouldn't expect anything less than a table with wine for adults in the California area. Like it just adds up way too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Connor,
Anyway,
how was your weekend?
it was oh man, I'm finally recovered, I feel like. So
Oh,
today's what? Tuesday? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So Friday was Halloween. Went down to the New York City parade. I dressed up as a clown. I wish I should have brought the picture up just to share if people really wanted to be entertained. But my wife did it too. So we were just like a scary clown couple. Went down to the city, saw the parade, which is awesome. I think it's better than the Thanksgiving Day parade, but all parades are kind of a pain in the butt because they're so crowded. But anyway, saw that. And then before you know it, I'm out till 3 a.m. at a karaoke bar in St. Mark Street in Lower Manhattan. And I just turned to my wife. I'm like, I think it's time to go. And I should probably sounded more like, I think it's time to go, something like that. But, it was time to go. Got home, went on the couch, and then at like 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., I'm literally in my costume, almost sitting. If someone walked by me, I'd look like like a prop or something, just sitting upright on my couch, like fast asleep. And then I just wake up like one of those like falling off a cliff in your dream where I'm like, like, oh my
Oh my
gosh. I
God.
wake up and I look at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, it's 6 a.m. Went into my bed, slept for another 6 or 7 hours, lots of water, lots of, supplements, like, a good bacon, egg, and cheese, as any New Yorker
Oh
would
yeah.
have. And by Sunday, it was okay. Yesterday was good. Today, I'm back to 100%. So I'll just say it was awesome. Had a blast. I don't want to do it again. That's
Wait,
what I'll
wait,
say.
what's your go-to karaoke
I
song?
was
I
just gonna
must
ask
know.
that. Yep.
So it's Hootie and the Blowfish. I only want to be with you because it's such a
Okay.
good one. Everybody knows it. It's really catchy. So I'll typically go that route with it. So we did do that at karaoke night. The other songs, gosh, you could pay me $1,000 per song and I wouldn't remember any of the other ones.
Oh,
So
really?
I it was a crazy. I
Damn.
felt like I was in like
Wow.
Did we have
college days.
shots?
Like,
Did we have
oh
shots?
yeah, that was the biggest
What
mistake.
kind?
So I
No,
had
that's not the mistake. That's the good part.
Well, for you, that's not for me, on top of probably the copious amount of like beer I had before. Like I think I probably had I had a beer before I left, and then we went into a bar before we met with friends at the parade, had two there. I probably had like 4 or 5 beers before I started a shot, and then there was a shot of tequila, a shot of Jameson, and a lemon drop in there.
Oh,
And
jeez.
Oh,
it
Oh,
was
man.
it was heinous, guys. Like,
okay. Well, look,
it
you
was
were
bad.
mixing. You were
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mixing. So, like,
Yeah.
You
you
know,
should
Like
have just had tequila.
I know
freshmen
I
in
should have
college
stuck
do
with
that,
one,
huh?
but it was just one of those things where you're in the moment, in the moment, if you're like, oh, this is great, I'll be okay, like no problem, and it's like the night just fast forwards until it's like 3 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I think it's the sleep more than the drinking, in my opinion. I think the lack of sleep and disruption that alcohol causes to your system
Yeah.
is like 50% of the hangover the next day. I think it's just you're just wiped out and so tired, but I don't know. It's a theory I don't want to test out again. So it'll be very easygoing for the next couple of weeks, if not months for
I
me.
mean, like, the fact that it took you 4 days to bounce back and I mean, like, that's actually pretty good. Like, I hear people take like a week to two, like, to really,
Really?
Jeez.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. I feel like 4 days is a lot. I
So you're
remember
like 4 days, like, that's pretty good for our
I
age, I think.
college days, I could go out, get up the next morning and be like, I'm ready to go again. Grant, that's 20 years ago I'm talking
I
about now
know,
for me.
I
I'm really
can't.
Yeah.
aging myself. But no, it's like, I don't know. I think like 4 days was a long time, but I guess I'll take that compliment as being a fast,
Hell
quick
yeah.
I
recovery.
need food and naps the next morning, and then I'm good. And then exercise. I'll just run or hop on the bike or something.
Yeah, but
So
that was the weekend. So Charlie, what's up
nice.
with you? What'd you get up
Yeah,
to?
Charlie.
Go.
So weekend was good. Halloween was good. We met up with some friends. We were Legends of the Hidden Temple, so we were contestants on there. So we had like a helmet, a shirt, um, the gloves, with the no
Yeah, yeah,
fingers and
yeah.
the gloves.
Like the
Yeah,
fingerless gloves?
yeah, fingerless gloves. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. We were that. We got compliments like all night. One guy offered to buy us all around. We're like, maybe not right now.
I would have said
Maybe.
yes.
Yeah, 100%. What the?
Maybe we kind of pumped the brakes on that right now. But yeah, I got compliments. We went to a couple bars. I played darts. I haven't played darts in a long time.
Cricket, Charlie.
It's harder, and you get some beer in me that night, so it's kind of hard to aim, when you're a little bundled. But that was fun. That was cool. Next morning, yeah, hated my life. Yeah, just nap and food, just carbs, just hungry hippo. Just stuffed my face with food, and then felt fine after that.
What did you have like any of the what were the guys who used to pop out in Legends of the Hidden Temple
Oh,
that when you were doing like the course at the end
yeah,
and they'd like
yeah.
pop out and grab you and that's how you would like lose basically. You wouldn't win
So
the game.
no, I forgot what they're called, but we did have pennants of life. So I'd walk from the bar over to our table. I go pennants of life, and I'd like shove it, like not shove it in their face, but I'd over
That's
tables. I would
hilarious.
do that, and they'd
That's
all like start
awesome.
laughing, like, dude, that's awesome, that's awesome. And they're like, I took a picture with one, pendants of life, and I would do that. So we had like homemade pennants of life that my girlfriend made. So no, we did not run into guards. Luckily, I had pennants of life, so
Sweet.
that was cool. So that night, Saturday, it was fun. Actually, no, it wasn't because I laid low. Sunday, oh, heartbreak in Canada because we do have a Canadian
Oh,
audience as well.
yes.
That is brutal. That is
I watched
absolutely
it.
brutal. Really,
I
oh
watched
man,
it.
when
I mean, I just like, my husband
heartbreaking.
was cheering for the Blue Jays, and then I was like indifferent because I'm like, we're in California, like,
Yeah,
but it's like also the Dodgers win a lot. They're the highest paid, like,
I can't
base
stand them.
team in baseball. Nobody can stand them. So we're both cheering for Toronto. And I really thought they were going to win at the end there. I was shocked. But it was a really good game. Like,
incredible
That was
game.
I grew up
great.
watching baseball and I'm
Incredible
not
game.
like too much into it, but I was like, this is good. I was hooked. And then there was like a fight happening and
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember which inning. And then I'm like,
Oh
why
yeah,
is
yeah.
everyone coming onto the field for this little baby like
That's what they
tub? Like,
do in
what's
baseball. It's
happening?
so
This is
funny.
dramatic. This
It's
is
very
Yeah,
dramatic.
love
dramatic.
it. Yeah.
It
I don't like baseball. I just never got into it. It's just not my thing. I grew up playing hockey. And yeah, I was like, this is nuts. This is great. This is so awesome.
But they don't fight like they do in hockey. They literally like someone will
Yeah.
like I
Also,
don't
they don't
know,
act
stub
like
their
idiots like
toe
that
or
too.
something, and then
Yeah, and then
everybody like runs
everyone's
it.
on the
Yeah.
field. They're going to war. And I'm like, the guy said the F word. Like it wasn't like anything really. They didn't even touch each other.
And
And
the
now we
funniest
have
part nothing happens when they all come out. They all just stare at each other
It's
and they'll
so
kind of like
stupid.
fake hold each other back. And they're like, no, man, don't go after him. And it's like, the guy, like, nothing's going on here, guys. Like, go back to your dugout,
Dude.
sit
Whereas in
down.
hockey, they're just like they're hitting each other's faces. You know what I
Hockey's
mean? Like
awesome for
they're
that.
You know what?
yeah.
Guys don't act like idiots because you can punch each other square in the face.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
that stuff doesn't happen. So it really keeps everybody honest is what that does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of
Mm-hmm.
that, I played hockey Sunday morning. That's really when I burned everything out. It's 3v3, so it's a real tiny ice sheet, and I play goalie, so I was, oh, yeah, I'm gassed. My legs are still sore. So that was cool. And yeah, just this morning, huge news, and I was slacking Connor before he hit record. We got Google Ads API
Let's go.
finally approved. So
Let's go.
the next 48 hours of my life are gone. I'm going to cover all of my windows. I was telling y'all I'm gonna turn off all my notifications. I'm just gonna reject everything. Like
Oh my
next time you guys
gosh.
see me, like my fingernails are gonna be all long and my
Oh,
beard is like, yeah, but that
this
thing
is
will
an
be working.
SEO marketer's dream, you guys. An SEO marketer's dream right here.
Yeah, so we got approval for the Google Ads API. So now our app, our AI app that we're building, campaign pilots, will be fully functional. So
Sick.
that is huge. Super excited about that. So that was a very long intro, but yeah, that was our weeks. So all right, let's gear up. Let's do this.
Alrighty,
Let's
y'all.
talk about this branding for AI
Let's
Code
talk
Mallory,
about
Central.
floor is yours. I
branding.
want you to come at us like if we were also, I mean, in some capacity, I'm assuming you're treating this as you would any client, but I really just want you to like attack it.
I
Like
mean,
if
look,
we
I kind of
really
already
would
did. I kind of already did. But
good.
I was in a nice way. I
Bully
was like,
us,
well, I
Mallory,
was like, you
bully
guys, can
us.
we update the brand? They're like, wow, you're so direct. I'm like, well, it's because it's not good. So
That is great. Well, because it's not
Love
good.
it.
So one more thing. Have you ever said
so
that to a client when they're like, well, why do we need to update? And you're like, well, it's not good. Like
oh
plain and
yeah,
simple.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, it's bad.
Got to call
Like
their
it's
baby
just
ugly, you
I
know?
don't mind I
Okay.
don't mind being that blunt. So,
As long as you
you
can
know.
fix it.
Of course. Look, I'm not the type to be like, it's ugly and figure it out yourself. Like, you know, that's not very supportive or helpful. I'm
Yeah.
not, but I'm gonna call it as I see it,
Let's do it.
and
All right.
it can use some work. So look, okay, our goal here for the session is to really sort of define a new brand identity and a name. And we're not going to necessarily lock down a name this session. This is kind of the building blocks for me to then like, or even a few of us, um, to kind of go in and start cooking and thinking about some names, which is what I want to do after the session is over. But we really kind of want to figure out how we can capture like our shared expertise across marketing or across like advertising, growth marketing, SEO marketing, brand marketing, and figure out how we combine that into our brand is really important. And so I think that we have grown from sort of being this technical podcast into sort of a hub for founders and builders and marketers who want to go from idea to traction. And I have brand here, but like idea to traction is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that was what we talked about even yesterday, Charlie, to some extent, right? Of like, there's a lot of folks that are here that are building, but it's like, how do I crack distribution? How do I get traction? How do I, and like the brand is one part of that, right? And the traction piece is interesting too, in that, we were talking about like brand marketing doesn't like translate to like, direct growth. What I will say is that when you are building a brand, you are building it for your end user in mind, right? And so if that's the case, right, and you're really sort of targeting the right person, like realistically brands should be able to like draw that person in, right? Because we crafted a brand that's specifically targeting that persona or those personas in general. So I think that the next phase for us is to really kind of reflect on who we are as a team, and figure out how we can take our superpowers and meld it into something, a brand that we can really be proud of and carry in the long term. So this is kind of my why. My why is a few things. I think the name AI Code Central sounds a little too technical and a little developer oriented. So when I hear the word code for me, I'm like, okay, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna listen to this podcast and I'm going to learn how to sharpen my technical skills or my developer skills. And I don't think that is what we're about. I mean, like Charlie, I know you have technical, like you have a technical background and you can provide some of that knowledge and expertise, but like that is not necessarily what we're for, or like what the type of content we're trying to put out.
Right. And I started the podcast. You know what? The original idea was to have all these AI tools because when I fell down the rabbit hole of building with AI, there's all these tools coming out. And I was like, I don't know, like what's the real difference between Lovable and Bolt? Like for a general like prosumer, as you can call it. And I started this to really talk about the differences between these tools. And as an SEO background, okay, well, I can go after the keyword AI code because that has an astronomical keyword volume to it, and it's really not that difficult to rank for. And I would search that keyword and I'm like, this is bananas. And the trend on it, like if you look at Glimpse data, the trend on it is crazy. So
Yeah.
that's basically how I started it, like the initial idea. And then as we talked to more founders and did research, we would hear the number one complaint was always, how do we get customers? After Reddit, after X, after Product Hunt, after okay, we get it live, we hit deploy, we get ads, we get API approval. Okay, now what? How do we get customers? And then it started to kind of transition. So the name AI Code Central, yeah, it's not good.
Well,
And
Oh,
I'm
and then even
100%
things
open
like,
to to changing it, transitioning that to our target audience. Yeah, 100%.
Connor, you were going to say something.
yeah,
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 just
sorry. So I guess too, it's like there is something to be said from the SEO standpoint, right? And I guess that's kind of the balance. Mallory, you probably heard this before, right? Maybe somebody named something, their business, a certain thing because of SEO, right? Because it helps with local traffic or just they're seeing trends, right? And there is something to be said for that. And it's almost like, well, what trumps what? Does brand trump the SEO? Does
Mm,
SEO trump the brand? Do you try and meet in the middle? I feel like meeting in the middle probably is a detriment to the SEO piece, not so much the branding piece. But how do you deal with something like that where again, AI
yeah.
Code Central, tons of traffic, and that's how we can get some visibility, but maybe it's not the right visibility, right? Which
yeah,
is something to your
right,
point
Right.
too.
right.
It's just
Right.
casting a wide net.
Look, I think when it comes to choosing a name, you definitely have to have SEO in mind. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Going through that process, you have to have trademarks in mind. Can you really own this? Like, does it make sense? Like, all of these things I think are important to consider. I will share that, during my time at Bolt.new, which is kind of the actual name, like we use the word Bolt,
Hmm.
but realistically it's Bolt.new.
Right.
The company is actually named Stack Blitz. And then when they announced this new product, it was Bolt.new. And so I kind of came in and I was like, look, like this name is not bad, but the problem is like Bolt, the word itself is actually being used by like a car company and another tech company and a sports team and another tech company in Europe. And so there's no opportunity to really sort of own that word. And then the
Hmm.
.new component, I'm like, look, works for now, but it's not going to work in the long term, right? That
Mm.
that domain, you can only be new for so long. And
Right.
so right. So like that's a great example, in my opinion, of being like, okay, we need to change the name. And it clearly does not work for SEO purposes. So in my mind, naming is not just about like, is the customer going to love it? Is it going to be is it like 3 syllables and snappy? Can we find the domain? But I think the SEO piece is very important to really understand, do you have the capacity to actually rank on Google, right? If you decide to go forward with this name. Talking about vibe coding space, like Lovable is a great example of, I think, choosing that name, it feels very special to them, right? Like, I don't know of any other company or sports team or what have you named Lovable, right?
Hmm.
And so for them to just, they can really own that word. I mean, yeah, I guess it's an adjective or whatever that people can use to describe others or what have you, but that's not a name that's like for SEO purposes, right? Is being like ranked from other businesses or sports teams or whatever it may be, right? So want to say just that like SEO does matter when it comes to choosing a name. It should be a part of it. But going back to your point, Connor, it's like, are we attracting the right people? Like
Yeah.
if we are AI Code Central and people are expecting to learn that sort of knowledge from us, like, and then they don't get that from us, there's going to be a little bit of confusion. I think we want to like choose a name and then like develop our brand in a way where it makes it very clear on who we're for and what we're about.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes all the
Got
sense
it.
in the world too. And I
Okay.
think like the key thing too is the uniqueness of it, right? That's one thing because of the trademark, right? Having that is
Yes,
a step above and beyond what a lot of other people do, but making sure that it's unique again to the point where it speaks to
yeah,
what the user is looking for, what they may be seeking. So no, that all makes sense.
exactly.
Again, just kind of something I wanted to throw out there.
Cool, cool.
But look, it's
And
interesting because like I have worked with like naming agencies that have a whole like they have a whole process on how they go through this. And if you are an early stage startup, I wouldn't worry too much about trademarks. Like you really got to figure out whether or not that name or your product's going to have some amount of longevity. And so I do recommend in the early stages, don't get tripped up over being like, I have to get this name trademarked. Like you may not use it in 6 to 12 months from them because you're trying to figure out if your product's actually going to have any amount of PMF. And to me, that's more important
I
than
guess
than
that's it
nailing
right
down the
there.
right
Yeah.
name.
yeah.
So
Yeah. You
yeah,
got to get that first, I
yeah,
think. So through this exercise, the following exercises, plural, that we'll be doing, Mallory, will we brainstorm name ideas then of like
yeah, yeah,
how
yeah,
to come up
yeah.
with it and like,
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear
uh,
what you guys have to say or like
okay.
what name ideas that you have. Um, yeah, and honestly, like I've done things like there's so many name generators out there that you can use. I've even used things like ChatGPT, and they don't get me to 100%, but they do start getting just some like different parts of words like cooking in my brain that I could
Mhm.
potentially use. So if you are out there and you're just like, how do I even approach naming in general? Lots of just decent name generators, like if you kind of start a one pager like this and have a few name ideas in mind, you can even toss that to Claude or ChatGPT. And like I said, it's not going to give you the name, right? But it'll give you some starting points to at least to work with. So hopefully that's helpful too. Another reason
Cool.
why I think it's important for us to evolve the brand now, and we've kind of already talked about this, right? Our audience is shifting from builders who code to builders who market. And it's both, right? Like builders are not just coders anymore. Like they also have to figure out distribution. And so all three of us are have different disciplines of marketing. And so how can we help builders with that distribution piece, right? Because we know it's such a problem in the AI space.
I think it's from what I've been told doing these interviews, online and offline too, is that distribution is the new moat. With the number of apps just popping up, there's some poo-poo out there, just websites and everything. Distribution is the new moat. So I think on top of your
Definitely.
brand too, obviously. So
Definitely.
yeah, this is good. I'm excited, and yeah, do your thing. I'm
Oh, okay.
100% open to being bullied and and
Okay.
being
And
told
then
where to
like
go with this.
what else? The visual identity, I don't think matches the creativity, humor, and energy of what we can provide. Like, let me pull this up. Let's see. AI Code Central.
And just a heads up here too for people listening, she's sharing her screen. So on YouTube,
Okay, so
um,
I'm pulling up our
she'll see
YouTube
this
right
here
now.
too.
So anyone can do this. I'm on our AI Code Central YouTube page, and just kind of getting a visual of, how our identity comes to life within the thumbnails and the logo. Like, what does this logo tell me? I don't know. It's a microphone. It tells me that or a podcast of some sort, but doesn't tell me much more than that. And to me, like the branding here feels very dark and doesn't have any contrast to it. And we're featuring so many different builders and founders, and so how can we provide a little bit of personality or color to what we have here, right? um and I mean there's definitely a template, so that's good. Like we're kind of trying to templatize our assets, but this just kind of feels dark and boring and lame to me, to be like quite honest. Like
Okay.
that's that and it feels extremely techy. Like it's just like every freaking developer or tech site that I go to is like black and dark blue, and I get it. It's an aesthetic, and that's at the core. We talked about this kind of a little bit, but we talked a little bit about how at the core there is this sort of aesthetic that we like. So how do we build on top of it without being like we're throwing all of this away and we're starting all over? Because
Right.
we're not doing that. And to anyone listening, right? Like you don't need to do that. In fact, I would encourage you to be like, okay, at the core, like who are we and what do we want to keep that we feel like best represents us, even in the next iteration and evolution of our brand? When I worked at Discord, we did this. It was like, I worked on repositioning the brand to expand outside of games when the company was ready to do so. But at the core, we were gamers. And so that was something that we could not forget within our brand personality, voice, and tone, within the way that our visual identity would show up. We can't forget to speak to those folks because it is the core of the platform, right? And so obviously it's not in this intense with this example, right? But if we really sort of, this is like who we are, we kind of like always want to keep a part of that with us as we change and grow over time. I think that's really important. But yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say. Like, it's simple, it's dark, it's not like the worst thing in the world by any means, but it feels like it could use a little oomph, a little personality, maybe a little bit of color or splash of it, right?
And so, Mallory,
Yeah.
too, with that, because I agree too, right? Again, it's very, dark and very plain and simple, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do very much agree with the point of our audience. Like, this isn't for our audience, right? This is like an engineer audience, right? They may be very interested and maybe intrigued by
Correct.
this in some capacity. It's like if we're trying to pull in marketers, which we are doing, and early builders, they may be looking for something a little bit more fun, easygoing, that doesn't look as it does. It represents very technical step by step by step, where somebody's probably looking for something a little more engaging from a tutorial perspective. How do you then come up with color schemes, right? Or like aesthetics? Like, is that, I know there's mood boards that we've spoken about, and you can pull inspiration from other websites or accounts, et cetera. But is there anything to be said for, okay, if this is your target audience, like there are some suggestions that I would make based on that when it comes to an aesthetic?
That's a great question, actually. Because to me, aesthetic is a mix of like, okay, definitely a mix of what the end customer or consumer would like to see, yes.
Yeah.
But then it should also represent, the folks within the company or within the brand as well. Because I've had like I don't know if I told you guys this. I think I did, but a few weeks ago I spoke to a brand and they were like, we just want to be, or a company, we just want to be a cool brand. Help us like create a cool brand, right? Which is very broad. And
Right.
sure, I can definitely create a cool brand. And as we dug into it, I started asking, I'm like, okay, who are the types of people that work here? Like, what are your personas, right? Like, what are the types of personalities that we see here? And so as we started digging in, he was like, well, we have really dedicated researchers here, which like isn't a cool persona. I'm like, but like that's not about, it doesn't have to be cool. Like at the end of the day, if parts of the brand don't resonate with the folks that actually work within the product or brand itself, you're not going to be able to execute on it because you're executing on something that is not even representative of who you are, like a part of you or like core of what the product used to be. Like, and so like I can make a cool brand, but if nobody internally resonates with it, it's going to flop.
Right.
It's not going to do well, right? So it has to resonate with the end consumer in mind, but then it has to be reflective of the humans that are actually creating the brand and creating the product. So it's got to have a little bit of both, um, and have that harmony, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely does, because I think too, you add a little piece in or a big piece in of the people who are actually behind the actual business itself. Again, it gives it that humanity component that we talk about often, right? And that's what gets people to connect and feel connected in the community aspect and engage, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it makes total sense. I mean,
Yeah.
and if you're not passionate about what you're actually putting out there in terms of the look and feel, I mean, it's empty at that point. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. So
Exactly, exactly. And I don't know, I'm like this in this moment I'm thinking of our interview with Suk and just the fact that like, he's had such a colorful sort of background in building 35 products, 28 have failed. He's super resilient. He continues to build. He's trying to learn all parts of not just like being a technical sort of like founder, but like the sales component, the marketing component.
mhm.
Like we get to meet so many awesome people with different backgrounds, and I feel like the aesthetic of what we have doesn't represent that factor, if that makes sense. Like it feels like it's not giving them the vibe or aesthetic that like they're putting out into the world, if that makes
Hmm.
any
Yeah,
sense. I
it
don't know.
absolutely
Yeah.
does.
But
Okay.
so we deserve to kind of like give them that, yeah, give them that vibe that, they're putting out into the world with what we're trying to create. Um,
Okay.
so one thing, like I also took a look at our LinkedIn. And when you go through this, like I recommend looking at where your brand is located. It's not just about the marketing channels. And in this case, we're still starting out, so we have only a few of these pages, but if you also have a product, I would also go through the product and be like, how does the brand resonate within the product as well? Right. And it doesn't just have to be visual identity or like a little icon. It can even be as simple as how does this product speak directly to the user? Right. Like, what is that tone like? What is that like? And so I'm very big on like how do you, as you evolve the brand, make sure it's consistent across all touch points, whether that's the product, the marketing channels, how you speak to users, all of that is sort of something I think about when going through this process. But yeah, and then just like reading through this, right? Like all of this is true, right? AI Code Central is where builders and founders and creators learn how to turn AI ideas into real traction. That's true. We talk about our combined experience. All of this is true. So this feels at least true to what we are about. My thing would be like, how do we simplify this? How do we make it catchier?
Yeah.
So that someone reads it in 10 seconds to like, boom, like I know what that's about and or I know what this is about. And that's a very hard exercise for founders to go through. It's just like getting that positioning down to like a few words is not an easy
Mhm.
exercise to go through, but like would want us to over time to figure out how we can like this is our long version, right? But like what's
Elevator
our
pitch version of
Yeah.
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Like
Connor. Exactly.
2 sentences, 3 sentences. This is what we do. This is who we serve. This is what you'll get from it. Right. Like
That's it.
Exactly.
hitting all those
Okay.
points.
Exactly. So, okay, now that we kind of set the stage as for like why we're actually doing this, the next step is to kind of go through and answer just some like high level questions. And you can do this on your own if you're a solo founder, if you know you've got a team of folks that, um, I mean, if you've got a small team of people too, like it's worth taking everybody through this because what I've also learned is that, if you're going to change the brand, you want to like bring the company along for the ride and you want them to have and it's not like every single person has to be a part of it per se, but you want to bring them along for the ride and sort of make sure that the work they're doing represents the way that the brand is coming to life and or
Mhm.
how it will change, right? So first question is like, what do we stand for? What do we stand for? These are going to be like hard questions because it's like you got to really take a step back, right? But like, what do we stand for?
That is a great
That is a
question.
great question. I've even thought of that.
Well, I
I
guess that's
want,
it right there too. If we haven't thought about it, right, that's such a
yeah.
foundational piece is what do we stand for, not just who do we serve.
Boy, what a
It's like
question.
what are we trying to accomplish? And I think it's standing for AI Code Central, the name as it is now. It's education and resources and networking availability for early builders, for marketers, for people who want to take their apps and builds and go to market, right? So I think we stand for that education, being that educative, resource for all of these people and sharing that wealth of knowledge as opposed to some people who just they either gatekeep it or they don't want to share it or they're going to charge you for it. And we want to make things accessible for everybody to be able to take their app that they've built, roll it out there and feel confident in their go-to-market plan. Right. So I think we really stand for enabling and giving power to early builders to not only take the build and roll it out there and deploy it, but also understand how to market it and gain some traction with it.
I think I don't think I want this to be the hub for builders, founders in the AI space, app, company, whatever your product is, to come to learn and scale your company. Whether that's so my initial thought was, paid acquisition, SEO, and now that we have branding, those three components will enable you to do that. And then eventually, when we get into capital allocation, you'll be able to do that faster as a founder with our resource hub, which is this.
That's
So that's
interesting. Okay. So, all right. But
I don't know if that kind of fits with you guys because I feel like I've never had with my agency background, I've heard a bunch of stories when founders are not aligned. That's when things break.
I mean, that's definitely true from my experience. I think what was really interesting between Connor's answer and your answer, Charlie, is the like you focus less on the marketing and more on the scaling. But scaling could mean anything, right? Like scaling, to your point, like
Yeah.
it
Okay.
could it could be brand SEO growth, it could be community content, it could be like there's so many ways we can go down that direction. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Whereas I feel like Connor kind of went down the road of like the education component one, which I think we all agree on. Like, I think
Yeah.
we all agree on, and that's why I joined. I personally joined because I was like, look, have just such a, I have a lot of knowledge around how to do brand community and content marketing. And yes, I've started sharing that on LinkedIn, but like, what are the other ways I can share my knowledge with the world? Because I really want to help young people. I want this knowledge to be more accessible to builders, just like you mentioned, Connor. Um, but I feel like Charlie kind of like simplified that, and learning and scaling. I heard those two words like kind of pop up at me. I've heard education, learning, scaling, early stage builders, go to market. Like those are the kind of the words I'm hearing pop up as themes right now.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair too, right? It's like I was going to ask you too, like how do you take that kind of feedback and like, simplify it, right? Because I just gave a very long-winded answer. Charlie has something that doesn't exactly align, but there are pieces in there
Yeah.
that do align with what I said. So, I mean, and you just answer my question for me. It's like you just were listening, took the words out that you saw some correlation to, and it's like, hey guys, if this is it, yeah,
Yeah.
these are the pillars that we should stand on in
Right.
regards to the question
So
here.
I think
from this is how this turns into like a mission vision statement.
okay.
And that's really important because it is sort of the North Star on how on where you're guiding not just your brand, but like your product and your company over time. Like, and so that to me is what this will eventually turn into. Like this discussion on on what do we stand for is will turn into that over time. Or as a next step, that's what I will work on.
Okay.
Even if we're like, I would just take components of what we're saying and I would figure out how to craft
Yeah.
a really short but a punchy vision that like we're all going to rally around and be like, yeah, right. But I would
I
have you react to that. I'd have you give feedback, but that's
okay.
kind of the purpose of why I'm asking this question and taking the words that you guys are saying and trying to find a way to combine that into something that works for the three of us.
Yeah, it's great.
I think I have it written down here in quotes. How one of the pillars when you were saying, Connor, learn how to market your app. That's what I've got. Between our expertise, a listener, viewer, will learn how to properly do that.
I think it takes, I would assume too, Riley, right? Like you said, this probably takes a lot of iteration and really going through it, right? It's like we're all saying things right here. Sure, we could come up with what we stand for, in 2 minutes and throw it on there, but I think it takes a little bit longer to really think through it, make sure there's some alignment there, or is it something
Yeah.
that is relatively quick?
So usually what I will do, like after we go through this process, I would put together a really short brand guide and be like, okay, this is our vision. This is our mission. This is
Yeah.
who we're serving, right? Like very and keep it super like short and sweet and to the point. If we can't agree on those points, then like we got to go back to the drawing board. But
Yeah.
a tagline. Here's a tagline or the way that we would describe ourselves, right? So like going back to our LinkedIn and being like, hey, what Charlie wrote is not bad, by the way. So, Charlie, what you wrote was not bad and it wasn't false. It was true. It's like, how do
Okay.
we elevator pitch the hell out of it,
Yeah.
And because I'm not going to lie to you, I don't want to read that whole thing, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look, for SEO purposes, it is important, actually. It is important to have that longer description, especially when it comes to like app store pages and like all of this other stuff that we don't need to get into today, right? But like, so part of the messaging is like, how do you break that down into something more longer form? But like, how do you also keep it really high level and short and sweet to the point? Because this is what's important is everyone in your company should be talking about the company and the product in the same way. And that comes back to the messaging and positioning
Yeah.
and the vision and what
Good
we
point.
stand for.
Mm.
If everyone's talking about the product or the brand in a different way, it means that there's not alignment on messaging and positioning. And perhaps if there's no like even alignment on strategy, like is there a vision and mission that the whole company's even rallying around, right? Like, which I don't see too much of, right? But I do see a lot of startups that I'll like consult with or I'll walk into people describing the product differently. And so when I actually go in and do sort of like brand consulting, what I'll do is I'll talk to everyone at the exec level. I'll talk to the marketing team. I'll talk to engineers. I'll talk to everyone that I can potentially talk to and ask them, if you had to describe this product to a friend, how would you pitch it? And I get all sorts of answers. And so from there,
Mhm.
I take all of that data plus what I can gather from users to then help craft that messaging and positioning, right? And to make sure that everyone's talking about it in the same way. So if Connor, you're going to go talk to Business Insider about whatever you're working on, it better be consistent with the way that Charlie is posting about it on X, the way that Mallory is, in the Discord community and talking with our user. Like it should be consistent, right?
Yep.
So it
Yep.
starts
That
with,
makes a ton of sense. And that also
So
sounds, if there is difference, like cultural misalignment, even, right? Like work culture and
when
all of that stuff, which is integral.
when all of this is aligned, Mallory, what's the end result?
what's the end result? The end result kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier. So the end result is, having like, at least like on the messaging and positioning side of things, right? Making sure that it is clear across every single, it's consistent and it's clear, right? And it
Okay.
across YouTube, LinkedIn, the website, right? Like FAQs, help center articles. Like we're not doing that, but like for someone who's listening, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's like how we actually respond to customer support tickets, right? Making sure the brand
Okay.
personality and voice and tone, the messaging, like this is all the high level stuff, but this does drill in to, how other teams across the company can implement the brand guide into the work that they do, which is actually a small example is when I was at Bolt, I worked with a wonderful designer named Fiona, where we created this and crafted this brand guide for Bolt, and we went to all of the teams across the company and we taught them, hey, this is actually how you apply the brand to exactly what you're working on, right? So that they
Mhm.
understood that, like, hey, this is the brand, and this is how we can keep it consistent on CX, on product, on engineering, right? So that is like kind of the outcome is that the whole company kind of becomes aligned on this, and they're sort of infusing that throughout, their workflows and their messaging. And then like the external facing channels also, have that sort of lift in that they're all consistent and have the same messaging and positioning across the board. Um, and then of course, like, and we haven't really talked about this too much, but if you do have a lot of competitors in your sort of industry or in general, I would absolutely take a look at the way they are messaging and positioning their product. Who are they targeting? Are they targeting consumers? Are they targeting businesses? Right? Like, how is your product different or better? That stuff also matters. And we're not really talking about it too much yet, but that should also kind of be obvious in the outcome of what you're seeing, right? Like, if I like go on our website and it's like, oh wow, like we just came up with the same messaging and positioning as like the three other vibe coding tools that are in our
Yeah.
market, then you're not that you didn't really do anything. In fact, you just copycatted someone else. So I do see that happen from time to time as well. It's kind of just like copy what other people are doing. And that's not differentiating yourself or positioning yourself up for success
Yeah,
either.
that's where that uniqueness
Okay.
component comes in, right? That's not even with the name, that's with the service offering and the value proposition. And,
Yeah,
what are someone getting out of you that they're not getting out of the guy next to you, right? Like that's,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is
Exactly.
so this is a question, Mallory, for you for with your experience in our audience that has most likely used both tools. Hopefully, this doesn't open up a can of worms. So like not too complex, but is the difference this is just what I gathered, is the difference between Bolt and Lovable, and this is just based on messaging and I guess brand at this point.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Bolt more technical and is Lovable more based on design?
No, no.
Not at
And
all.
like,
Okay.
no. And look, if that's what you gather and that's the perception, then like that's what you gather, that's the perception. I think that so and it's tough because the vibe coding space has moved rapidly and things change. And so it
Yeah,
might not
yeah.
be the best example, but it is an AI, so it's a good one to call out. I think that Lovable is in a position to be very prosumer, consumer oriented. And so to me, like their brand gives Apple, it gives like easy and friendly to use for the everyday person. That's kind of the feeling that I get when I see their
Yeah.
marketing and when I look at their website. And for Bolt, when I go onto Bolt, it feels like it's more technical in nature, more developer
Yeah.
oriented. Even though like, and as of right now, from what I know, they're trying to move in an enterprise direction, and so you'll see over time their marketing and probably their website change to like really sort of um I think that they want like product managers and,
Mm-hmm.
teams or what have you to take them seriously as a right as a vibe coding tool. And so they'll be shifting their brand in that direction to really sort of capture that audience, right? But and then from the technical standpoint, they're very similar. I think they're very, very similar. It's
Okay.
very like minor sort of technical differences. Um, so that's the tough part. This is the tough part though, right? Because it's like, well, now it's kind of just based off of brand and maybe a few technical components. There's a few, but I don't think there's too many in my opinion that's like very, very different from Lovable and Bolt from a technical standpoint. As
Interesting.
I was
Okay.
ending my time there, they were like getting into focusing more on, having specific agents that would have, less errors. Like Cloud Code was something
Yeah.
that was integrated into Bolt's agent, right? And so kind of tackling a lot of the problems that are seen in the vibe coding space around,
Hmm.
yeah, error loops or what have you, and kind of just being able to create like, well, what the vibe coding space calls like, like toys, as in like these are like little landing pages that like you can use for fun. But like if you're trying to actually scale and build a product from an enterprise perspective, you can't really use these tools. And so Bolt was trying to move in a direction where it's like, this is how we're going to differentiate ourselves, is that this isn't just a product where you can, build a toy, but you can build a business with our platform, right? And
Enterprise
so
solutions.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Got it.
So
Got it.
that's how they're trying to differentiate now
that's
because
smart.
Got it.
and it is smart. It
It's
is
also
smart,
where all the
right?
money is for them, right? It's like an enterprise. The one-to-one stuff,
Exactly.
sure, it adds up, but you get, I mean, I'll take a business enterprise over
The one to many.
individual any day. So
Yeah.
that's just how it
Yeah.
goes.
Got it. Cool.
So anywho,
All
I know
right.
that was my long rant there, but and so making sure that like the messaging on, for both Lovable and Bolt translates to that specific end customer in mind. And then the aesthetics or the visual identity should also kind of correlate to that as well. So
Got
anywho,
it. Cool. Got it.
next question. What do we think is broken about how AI marketing is being taught or discussed today that we think can like help, like will help fill that gap?
I don't think there's enough like it goes back to education for me, right? It's like I just don't think there's enough resources out there that are beginner friendly, right? Like you need to have some foundation and understanding of coding and building and even marketing to some degree for a lot of the videos I watch, right? On YouTube or other podcasts or other websites you go to, right? If you don't have that, you're so far behind at this point in the game that it's like I don't know where you go to start learning those things, right? And I think that that's what we're going to be covering, right? We're your entry point into the space, right? We'll introduce you to it. We'll tell you through it based on our experience, right? We've experienced it ourselves. So I think for me, what's broken is there's not a ton of resources out there for people who want to start, or even enough resources out there or messaging out there to start intriguing people on how you leverage this to do what we do or what other builders do, right? And the potential and capabilities you have with it. So I think you don't see that nearly as much. You just have a lot of people leveraging it for, well, I know it. I'll teach you what I know at a very high level. And if you want some of these entry points, again, it's either a course you have to pay for or something else that you have to kind of teach yourself. And some people just don't have the wherewithal or knowledge to even know where to start, right? And I think that's what we're going to help address.
I think there's good like videos on YouTube. Like I learned basically like everything on YouTube. I couldn't function without the internet. I learned how to code from YouTube. I learned SEO, well, from doing it, of course, and YouTube. And look, there's some good resources out there. But yeah, I think what Connor was saying is like, okay, I'm attracted to vibe coding because it's a lower barrier to entry. But where's that congruency with like, how do I do an SEO campaign? How do I do a content calendar? How do I do keyword research? For this niche, how do we do that? And I didn't see a lot out there. So
Congruency.
Love
Nice
that.
you
word,
like that,
Charlie.
eh?
Yeah, congruency.
um,
Fancy, fancy. And the reason why I asked this question actually is because to me, this is a very problems versus solution oriented type of question. I think great marketers create content around what the problem is and what the
yeah,
solution is. And believe it or not, this
I
is
think
a
great
very
builders do
hard
that too.
exercise. You're right. Thank
Yeah.
you. Great builders do that. Absolutely. So, and it's actually, it sounds easy, but it's not in terms of like condensing that messaging and even pinpointing that one pain point or that one problem that people are really going to resonate with and be like, oh, like they're providing a real solution to this problem that I have, right? And so to me, it's like, how can we do any marketing or content around that, right? Like around noticing that there's a lack of education or resources in the space. And to me, like for me personally, like I think AI marketing lacks humanity. And as someone who is a
Yep.
community-based marketer, and I'm very big on human connection, and I love tech. I've been using tech my whole life, right? Like I think it's so important, especially with the rise of AI, to always have some amount of that humanness or humanity type component to what we do. And so to me, none of that, I don't see that on
Hmm.
anywhere. And I agree with the both of you. There is a lack of resourcing and education, yes, but also, and I'm seeing a lack of humanity in AI-based marketing today. And so I really want to kind of be able to outline or shed light as to like how you can actually make that happen and
Yeah.
why it's
Yeah.
important,
Yeah.
right?
I also
So,
think, I've said this before that between our expertise here on this call, you're not going to get this somewhere else. For your as a builder, as a founder in the app space, excuse me, I don't think you'll get it somewhere else. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
yeah,
So
very cool.
I don't know, good stuff though.
Okay.
What
Next. Okay, we're gonna kind of get into I mean, and usually I'd be taking notes, but like we're talking about that stuff out loud, so I will combine all of this later and create a really wonderful little brand guide for us to kind of start working with. But next question, and this seems obvious, but it's important, right? Like, who are we really talking to here? Who, and I know and I will say we have quite a few personas, and a lot of brands I work with have quite a few, but I think the best brand marketing or best marketing in general tries to focus it on a few versus all of them.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it's
Yeah.
like, who are we really talking to and who do we want to prioritize, right? In that list.
I'm thinking vibe coders and builders, entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
Entrepreneurs.
I'd say.
Okay.
I mean, you have it listed right here too, Mallory, which I think is it's like it's indie builders though too. I think
Yeah.
really right, like those beginner to intermediate builders that lack the marketing knowledge, right? I think that's like our audience in a nutshell, right there. I don't know if you expand beyond that to start, but it's like, would you put a couple of different audiences in there, or would you say, hey, this is our core one, and this is who we want to focus on, and that's it?
Yeah, like at what point, Mallory, what I've learned, like you target narrow and you spread wide. At what point do you do that with the brand as well?
That's a great question. That's a great question, actually. Um, I think you expand when you get to a point where your brand is no longer resonating with the new audiences that you're trying to go after. Back to
Got
the
it.
Discord example really quickly. When what had happened was that a lot of folks were not using Discord. Like their friends would be like, "Hey, we're on Discord. Like, come join us." So like, isn't that a platform for gamers? Like, I'm not a gamer, so why would I use it? And so
Mm,
it became a huge sort of point, and people were like, "Well, my perception of this product is that it's for gamers, and I'm not a gamer." But the reality is that anybody could use it. You didn't have to be a gamer. And so, how do we then update our brand so that in our messaging, so that it resonates with that new target that we're trying to go after, right?
hmm
So that would be a great time. Or if you decide you got to go in a brand new direction because you have these data points where you're like, we can't sell to this audience, this is not the right persona, right?
Mhm.
Based off of whatever data you have, that could be another point in which you decide to change the brand. But I think the most common use case would be like, okay, we're expanding into all of these new audiences. Our brand clearly doesn't resonate with them, and so we're going to have to update it.
Got it. Got it. Cool,
Yeah, it
cool.
makes sense.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so but what I'm hearing is like we believe we are really sort of talking to entrepreneurs, early builders, etc.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. And
Spot
I
on.
would say that's what we should focus on, right? Like, why would we
Yeah.
try and target all of these like other sort of audiences right now? I mean, if they're interested and they come through, like that's awesome, right? But this is a great starting point for us, considering that we're trying to grow this podcast and
Yeah.
get it out there, right?
Cool.
So, and then we kind of talked about this, like what like transformation are we promising them? I think we're like promising that we can provide the resources and education to really help them scale their business or their product, whether that is SEO marketing, whether that's paid marketing, or whether it's brand, whether it's all of them, right? Just depending upon, because the other thing too, right, is like, well, what channel do I start on first? Where do I start with marketing? And I
Yeah.
think that really depends on a lot of different things. There's no one right answer to that. Really, really depends on who you're building for, what you're building, all of those things. So,
Interesting. Okay. I've heard X, so I mean that's the first thing that pops in my head.
I mean,
For
X.
in
what? The
startup
first
tech
platform to
space,
be
yeah.
on?
Yeah. For
Yeah.
like
I think it
start
also
putting
depends very much on the space. I mean,
yeah.
you'd say X coming from a performance marketing standpoint. It's like, yeah, sure, X is great, but how do you know what, like, are you just saying a platform to be on, Charlie, in terms of putting
First.
yourself out there?
Yeah, no,
Or
like for the let's say for campaign pilots, like where does that go first? Does that go on X first? Is that like where do marketers hang out? X?
Mm,
right.
Do they
And
go
I
to
think the
Reddit?
thing is too, the transformation of promises, yeah, like, but we're going to show you the steps in order to get there, right? Because yeah, going on X is great and announcing your new build and deployment is awesome, but how is that measurable besides what X tells you?
well, and what if it's like not the right? Because like, look, I think that there's this pressure in the startup scene and right now to like build your founder personality and brand. And I'm not saying that's wrong, okay? I'm not saying that's wrong or that's bad,
Mm,
right? And so like usually for early stage startups, going on X and building that personality and just like putting your product out there is
yeah.
definitely like a part of the playbook. But look, what if you're building in health tech? They're not like
Mm,
that audience is probably not on fucking X, to be honest with you. Like if you're going after, I don't know, I'm just making something up, but like if you're going after, I don't
Well,
know.
we
I
could
just
do
feel
it.
like it just
It's
depends. Like it just depends on like who you're going after. I mean, but in
okay.
my experience, like Discord, it blew up on X. It was a very important channel for us. When I was at Bolt, blew up on X, was a
Yeah.
very important channel for us. Those are tech consumer facing sort of products. I think Charlie's like advice is spot on. Like X is a great channel to start with, but goes back to like who are you targeting? What are you trying to do? Like if you're in a completely different industry where it's not really, they're not, people are not, or your audience isn't on X, it might be a waste of your time.
Sweet.
Okay. What adjectives describe the vibe we want to create? Like I put examples here, bold, fun, honest, practical. I think like a lot of the advice that the both of you have given in recent episodes and past episodes have been very practical, experimental. Like, what are those
Yeah.
adjectives?
I think your last three to me, like honest and practical, are really the two that nail it, right? It's like everything we go through is practical. We try and walk through it as best we can, and it's honest, right? About our experience and how we've done it. And just because we've done it doesn't always necessarily mean it's, how you should do it, to a T. But I think that's what we want to create, right? Is that honesty and that practical, practicality to it.
I
So I'd
like
say those two resonate.
I like that you put fun in there, like not boring. I like edutainment on YouTube. I think it's great. I think look, there's some very, very good personalities in the space that have done some really, really cool things, but there's also some that I just can't listen to. So I think we've
Yeah.
done some amazing things. And I just I personally didn't want to go in that direction. I told Connor when he first hopped on, I was like,
Yeah.
dude, like pardon my language here, but Connor, don't be shy to say fuck. Or Mallory, I know you're
I
you're
know I
not
swear a lot.
you're
So
not sure,
for
but
those of you who
like
are
Mallory,
listening,
you've been great
I
though. I haven't
swear a
heard of
lot and I'm trying to tone it back because it's,
yeah.
a few here and there is fine, but I'm trying not to like,
there's
yeah,
a no, there is one podcast to listen to and they curse like every other sentence and it
Oh
drives
geez.
me
Yeah.
absolutely nuts.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Won't
That
name
I
them.
don't want to do because then it's
Right.
Yeah.
like I want to be able to talk through things without like
Right.
dropping an F-bomb everywhere, but like I do like to swear and I will do it once in a while. I think it's okay, but yeah, and like this question's important because this doesn't only come through in as we start kind of figuring out like how do we want the visual identity to look like? Do we
Mhm.
want it to feel honest and practical? Do we want it to have a little twist of fun? But this actually comes through in the messaging, like in the brand personality, voice, and tone that we create too. Is like I essentially kind of outline like the sort of core traits of what our personality would look like, and then examples of how that would come to be. So, for an example, when I worked at Discord, sorry, I keep bringing up Discord. I actually did this at Bolt too, so both places. But I would work with the team to create an explicit sort of outline of how our messaging translates into personality and what that tone should sound like and when to use the tone. Like, how do you talk to customers during a frustrating experience or during a one that is actually really exciting, right? And joyous. And then what does that sound like? How do we, when we're transparent with users about updates or, maybe something wrong happened and we need to take accountability. How do we show up in those sorts of ways, right? So, and what does the tone sound like? And so if we are like, we're honest and practical and maybe a little bit of fun, that is like what's going to show up, and not, of course, in our personalities on the pod, but then on our marketing channels and the messaging that we put out as well.
Consistency throughout.
Yep.
Congruency.
Yep. Exactly.
Congruency. Sorry, I'm going to use congruency. It's like my word of the day.
Bam. You heard it here first.
Congruency.
Love it. Cool. Awesome stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then
I do not want this podcast to be, this sounds selfish. I do not want this to be boring.
No, I don't want it to be boring either. I'm literally, like, as I start my marketing agency, like the stuff that I'm like pulling together, I'm like, I really only want to do marketing that is playful, joyous, sometimes a little chaotic, maybe sometimes a little unhinged, right? Like, but if you're going to come to me to do the most, like, I don't know, serious marketing or something, I'm not your gal, right? And that's okay. That's okay. But so
that's you sticking to you though too, and like letting your personality come out in the work that you provide for others, which is, again, we just spoke about it. That's what makes it stand out more. Because sure, you could front and say, yeah, I can do it, sure, no problem. But are you really going to put your all into it? Or are you going to put a lot of time and energy? It's like, maybe not if you're not really feeling it, right? It's like
that's why I left Bolt, because they were moving in an enterprise direction, and I was like, could I do it? Yes. Do I want to do it? No, because it's not my thing, right? And like, that's just the truth. And there's nothing wrong with that. It would have been great to learn, but it's not what I want to do, right? So,
Cool.
yeah, but there's someone out there who's going to own that. So
keep this rolling.
Cool.
How do we want listeners to feel? I think empowerment. I've heard the word empowerment, inspired, informed.
Feel.
What do you got to say, Charlie? You want them to feel congruent?
No, please don't say that. That's not a feeling. That's not a feeling. Well, maybe it is.
I think that they should come here and they should, with the, like if I'm a builder, I should go to working name AI Code Central and I should learn how to do email marketing. So they should feel like this is the one-stop shop to learn how to do this.
That's not a feeling though. That's not a feeling.
Okay.
Sorry, I know. No. It's like,
I know, I'm kidding.
You want it to be the one-stop shop, but that's not the feeling. I know. This is Charlie's like,
okay.
I don't get this stuff. What does this mean? Why are you asking me about feelings?
You're making his brain hurt.
I know. I can see it in real time.
It's not really Google Ads
really
API
great.
either.
He's like, the Google Ads API makes me feel like shit. But not anymore, because we're approved. Not anymore.
You're almost done there, man. You're almost done.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
how do you want our listeners to feel?
How does it make it feel? They're to feel informed. Like they should come here and they should get what they want.
I feel like they should, like anybody who's listening, right, and is gracing us with their time to listen, should feel informed, but also walk away feeling like they have something else in their skill set or utility belt to maybe start using, right? Yeah. And that's what I'd really like them to feel.
And I think that is empowerment, right? Like we're giving them the knowledge and the information to feel empowered, to be like, I'm gonna make this change and make this happen with my product because I learned it on the podcast, right? Cool. All right, this is a hard one. We're going down to name ideation. Okay. I don't have a lot of names here that I've started playing with. This is what I'm going to cook on this week after we actually do this episode. But so naming is so tough. Okay. This, like I said, there's so many ways to kind of get started on this. There's no one right way to do this. It's a very kind of difficult activity to do. Where I like to start is kind of, I talked a little bit about name generators, taking a doc like this and feeding into ChatGPT to help you come up with like, specific adjectives or parts of words that you think could be really interesting to you. So that's a great place to start. And then, that's usually where I start.
No, yeah. So I think this,
Yeah. And so I kind of just was like, I pulled together some categories of like, buckets or like, or how I can bucket some of the names, which like I made playful first, which I would not, after this discussion, I would not make that first, of course. Something more community driven or aspirational. I know that we're all marketers. So I was like, how do we take components of marketing and fit that into like the name? And I don't know yet because I need to brainstorm. And then the one other thing I wanted to say, and this I think is interesting for those that are listening, is the name AI is currently within our podcast name. I challenged Connor and Charlie a few weeks back saying like, I don't know if we need it. We may not. I'm not convinced, to be honest with you. And that is a discussion happening everywhere where it's like, do we use AI in our name? Do we use it in the tagline? Do we want people to know this is about AI.
Hmm.
And I have those discussions with founders, really depending upon who they're targeting, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we're targeting founders and builders in the space, right? So perhaps
Right.
for us, it makes sense for us to want to do. But if we decide we want to scale over time, do we think that having AI in our name is going to still be relevant? Is a question I think for
Do
you,
you,
the both
so
of you.
that's a great question too, Mallory, because do you look at that as something that any, founder should consider, not just us, but yeah, maybe we don't want AI in it because 5 years from now, right?
Because
God
it's
willing,
everywhere. Because it's
it's
like
like
everywhere. Does
we
it
might
matter?
expand to something larger than just AI, right? It's like we do have a marketing arm and a strong one at that based on all of our like skill sets. Like, should it be something more generic that just doesn't close it off to only focusing on that specific subset of users or people, right? Where you have that opportunity to
Yeah.
kind of expand without doing the name change again.
Yeah.
I would ask Mallory, I was going to ask you a challenging question of why wouldn't we have it in that?
I
But look,
think, well, it's a great question. I think that for us, it's a bit different because we are targeting folks within the space that are building in this space. So I think it could actually be useful for us to potentially use it within the name. Now, if you're building a product that's very consumer oriented and it's focused on AI, you may not want to use it or may not need to use it. I think that that word is to some people scary to some consumers out there. I'm
Hmm.
AI
outside of
is
our
really.
bubble. Think
Oh,
outside
okay.
of our bubble, okay? That yes, yes. As someone who like is obsessed with consumer trends and is always obsessed with like understanding where the consumer mindset is, especially around AI, the way we think about it and talk about it is very different from outside of our bubbles and how people think about it because there is some fear mongering around it happening. People have young people actually have a lot of concerns around like the ethical sort of morality around the data centers that are being built and the sustainability and how that's impacting our environment. A lot of other folks are afraid that it could take their jobs, right? So like I say these things because if you're building something that's really sort of over time going to scale to the everyday consumer, you may not even need AI in the name. It's just a part of the product and they don't need to know that. How is it important? Why does it matter to them, right? Like, yeah, that's just like my random thought there.
Yeah,
But
no, no, no.
that has nothing to do with this. Like I feel like
Okay.
because
Okay.
we know who we're targeting and where we're going, like maybe it does make sense for us to have it in the name. So I could go either way, to be honest with you.
No, I didn't use Claude Code for the longest time just because it had the name code in it, and I didn't feel like having to learn. I
There you
I,
go.
I I can figure it out, but like I didn't feel like learning Terminal.
I think this is the name thing is so important too that it's like it's got to be more of just throw some things out there, start dialing it into a few, and
Yeah, can we just
Yeah.
go
do
from
what Post
there.
Malone did? Just went to a name generator and just found something.
Is that what he did? I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He went to
That
a name
sounds like
generator.
Post Malone.
Yeah.
That's
Good for that
hilarious.
dude though. But no, I totally get it because again, this name came from exact match domain and put in that keyword. I saw that trend. I was like, Connor, we're doing this. Check this
Yeah,
out.
I mean that's again from the SEO perspective, it looks
Yeah.
great, but I think
But
Mallory's point
yeah,
is
she's right.
if it expands over time, does it really address the
Yeah.
entire audience? Which I think is
So, Mallory, look, if the name is trash, then let's change it.
I mean, it sounds like we're all in agreement that we're down to change it. It's more so like what are we going to
what do
change
we
it
change
to?
it
Like,
to?
and then we
Yeah.
need to be, I mean, obviously aligned on that. It's just and so I think I'm trying to think of like fun ways to do this also with the team. Like right now I'm opening up a name generator and I just typed in specific keywords and now it's just like it's basically smashing all of these words together. And so like how do you maybe take some of these, screenshot them and put them on like a Figma Jamboard or some sort of whiteboard and start
Hmm.
actually like jotting down specific words or keywords that you think are interesting or even just screenshots of like name generators, like just as a starting point, you know? And I'm not saying this is great, but like this is literally where I'm starting. Namelix.com helped me actually, I think, like, I think, did it help me when I named my startup whatever? I think it did. It was just one of those words in
Oh,
there. And
interesting.
then I looked it
Hmm.
up and I'm like, wait, this says to be a trademarked word. And then it wasn't. And I'm like, let's do it. It's
Sweet.
nonchalant, it's casual, it's understandable to consumers, like all this stuff, right? So, um, yeah, anywho. Do you guys have any ideas off the top of your head?
I mean, I did a quick, chat, GBT run too, and it's kind of some of the same, like, Builder House, I think was even one of
Yeah,
them
yeah,
that they
yeah.
like, the AI build house. Let's see, Signal Path, and it's okay, but none of them, I'm not looking at anything and it's not speaking to me in terms of, again, what we're offering and what we're putting out there
Yeah, I
is in the
agree.
title. And I think that needs to, it's probably going to be an aha moment for me where I see it. I'm like, yep, like these are the great ones. Now let's play around with them a little bit more.
So this is interesting. I kind of just quickly typed in marketing podcasts, and like these are just some of the names of the podcasts that are out there. And I feel like this is also a great starting point for us is like, okay, look at all of these different marketing podcasts. Some of them use the word marketing in them, right? Some of them are very simple. Like How I Built This is such a great name. Very familiar with that podcast. This one's
Yep.
just
Great
the CMO
podcast.
podcast, right? They probably focus on like featuring, CMOs. I don't know that to be true, but that would be my guess based off of the name that I see here. Duct tape marketing, marketing over coffee. This one's a social media marketing podcast, very clear on what they would provide. Marketing school, that's really
Cool. Yeah.
interesting. I think it's like we need to find a way to combine the word builder and marketing. Like
Marketing. Yeah.
there's something in that
Okay.
world where I think we can try and yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that. I'm
No,
just
I do too. I think
but
Builder, it needs to have marketing in it. I think at this point, it, in some capacity, right? Not, it doesn't have to be fully spelled out, however it gets figured out, but it has to be in there. I mean, based on, again, the offering, what we talk about,
okay.
who we are. I mean, we're marketers, right? We're marketers first, and we like to leverage that for the purposes of AI and AI builds.
What about yeah, so we've talked offline about the podcast being at the hub of everything, and the spokes would be maybe like more educational content. There's different arms to this thing that we're building, AI Code Central. So is there something to keep that in mind as well, or do we just go hard with this podcast, or do you do like two different arms then? What
That's a great question. I
like
don't
what
know.
once we introduce, that's probably another layer of
Wait,
complexity.
wait, 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 wait. You just said you don't know? Mallory.
No, no,
like
sorry.
like let's
I'm
say
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
let's say we introduce like educational products, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or we get into we which we will angel investing, the three of us, and you know how do we
I
incorporate that
mean,
into the name?
that's a great
That's where
point.
central came in. That's what I was thinking. So I was thinking
That makes
launchpad
sense.
just now, but I don't think that incorporates those two other arms I just mentioned. So
Not a
um,
bad name though. It's not a bad
th-
name.
this is gonna
I
yeah,
know.
this is
This is
pretty I think I spent like 2 days, not like
I
straight like I normally do, but I spent like 2 days on that name.
I'm sure. I'm naming is not an easy thing. I don't even have like a perfect process for it because it's very subjective. It's just one of those things that's different for everyone.
Uh-huh.
You can hire a whole naming agency if you want to. Lexicon is a wonderful naming agency. I don't
Is
mean
that
to
what it
make
is?
their name is called Lexicon,
Oh,
and I
that's cool.
think
That's awesome.
David Plasnick is the founder. He's been the founder for 14 years. He's come up with names
Wow.
like Febreze, like I mean, like a lot of big car companies that you're familiar with, BlackBerry. Like he
Oh,
is
cool.
synonymous with creating some of the biggest sort of brand names
Oh,
that we're all familiar with. He would
Did
actually be, oh my gosh, he would be a good person for the pod in the future,
okay.
actually. He would
Did
be excellent for the pod.
did he do
So
Benchmark Capital?
he might have done Benchmark. He also did Windsurf
Oh yeah, yeah.
recently,
Hmm.
as well. So, but so they so by the way, this is an agency that just focuses on coming up with their name. They do not do anything else other than helping you find a name, and it is a 6-week process that includes, tapping into linguists all around the world to make sure that the name that they're working on is not like offensive in
Yeah,
Japan
yeah.
or right, especially if you're building a global business. And then get this, they have a whole team of people that make up random words. They're not even real. They're not even real.
Oh
It's
my
a
gosh.
That's
whole
badass.
process.
That's
It
cool.
is badass, right? But you sit there and you're like, well, what does that mean? What is that process? That sounds crazy, but like this is why I said naming is it's difficult. It's subjective, and like they make up words so that you can own the word, right? From an SEO perspective, you can dominate and you can own that word. It's not being used everywhere else. You're not going to have to compete, right, with like a bunch of other companies. So, yeah, if you have if you're I don't know, you have to be like Series B and above. Like you've got to have some cash on hand,
Yeah,
but like they're
yeah.
great to work with. They're wonderful. I recommend
That's
them.
cool.
So,
All right.
anyways, okay. Um, but Launchpad's not a bad name. I think it's more so like maybe it doesn't encapsulate. Oh, and to go back to what you said, sorry, I'm jumping around, Charlie. Like
Mm.
we should choose a name that encapsulates like anything in the future that we plan to do that we feel very strong and that we're moving in that direction. So, for example, like the advisory slash investing piece, right? Um, is something that, we've been talking about. So like how do we make sure that the name can sort of work with something like that too?
I think offline, uh, we all need to be on the same page with the offerings, and
Yes.
then we hammer
Yes.
this out. Yeah,
That makes sense.
which I think we already are, but just to be 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we can go into that. But yeah, I
Anyways,
I'm
I
with
gotta
you on
play
that.
with this.
Yeah.
We're not gonna solve for this during this podcast episode, but more so want to get the juices flowing. Other small things like try and choose names that have like 2 to 3 syllables. Try and like, if you can,
Yeah.
also difficult to do, right? But like the AI Central, like
Podcast
AI Code Central, like that's
Central.
just, it's too long. There's too many words. Like, so if we could try and condense, and we don't have to. This is not like we have to like have it be 2, 3 syllables. No, we don't. But it would be great if we could because it just keeps it very simple and to the point.
When
So
I,
that's the
when I
challenge.
was when I had my sales job, there were times where I would call in for another sales guy. This is going to go somewhere. I would call for a prospect, or like if another sales guy had like a lead like warmed up and like I close him, I would call in. I would change my name, and I would change my name to Jack Macco. And Jack Macco, he was a no BS, like an Ari Gold, and he would go in and his close rate was like 95%. Like he
Damn.
was hard, like he would do it. And I always thought that name Jack Macco sounded so good, like phonetically. Jack,
Jack
it had the,
Macco.
yeah, Jack Macco, like the CK at the end
Yeah,
and
it
the
does. Yeah.
CCO, Jack Macco. And anytime a secretary, anytime a secretary, who's on the phone, I'd like step back from the phone, Jack Macco. And every time she'd just put me through. And I think there really is like something to it. It's also how you say it too, but um, I think phonetically
Yeah.
that sounded really good to me, and I remember prompting both Claude and GPT, like I gave the example, Jack Macco. How do we get this name to sound like that? How does that work? And I did that with campaign pilots. I think that has too many syllables, but I think there really is something to a name, and I've read studies too of like uh, K, like CK, like that name in a brand, like a consumer will remember. And in the pharmaceutical space, T and CK, like
Oh, interesting.
will like
Hmm.
resonate with a consumer. So I don't know
Yeah.
if
And
there's a way
then
we can
yeah.
do that with the name, with like a CK, or I don't know, that doesn't really work. I tried to do it with AI Code Central, but I was hyper focused on that keyword AI code, just because
AI code. Okay.
it was
And by
like
the way,
straight up
too,
like
like,
that.
and no, that's interesting because, like, And if we find that that's also like there's specific keywords that are valuable, like does it have to be in the name? Could it be like, a tag, could it be a part of a tagline, or could it be like, are there other ways from an SEO perspective for us to like lift those keywords without it being in the name itself, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Uh, you can, but it's more impactful if you do it in the name because the name will be on the domain. So
That makes sense.
exact match domain name.
That makes
Connor, what do
sense.
you
That
think?
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm
Oh,
kind of
okay.
just open to any kind of, things we're going to throw out there. I just think this process for the name ideation is going to take much longer than just discussing it here, right?
Yeah.
We got to throw some
Yeah.
things on the wall, see what
This
sticks
is
to
going to
all of
take some
us, and
time.
then yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But
I was
look,
about to ask Mallory, like I could only imagine this process like in real time has to take weeks for people to kind of go through, right? And we're trying to go through
Yeah.
it obviously step like we want everyone to see the steps to it, but we're trying
Yeah.
to hammer it out now when it's just,
Yeah.
take our time and let's make sure that we're really dialing it into the name that we
well,
want.
look,
It
if
does. It
there's
does.
if there's a badass name that doesn't include AI code, I mean, let's do it. Let's roll with it. Let's
Well,
let's
I'm gonna cook. I'm gonna cook.
get
So
the
I'm
names
basically
on
Let
it.
gonna
her
spend some
cook.
Yeah.
time. I know, you guys gotta let me cook a little bit. I'm gonna come up with some
Mhm.
stuff, and then I just want you guys to react to it. And I don't care if you think
Okay.
it's bad or it could be horrendous, but at least it'll be like, okay, well, we're not moving in this direction, and that to me is enough to like that's like enough feedback for us to just refine and get to the place where we're like, this is sick. But and I think I said this earlier, but just as a reminder too, like if you are haven't found product market fit yet, if you are in the earliest of stages, this should not take up all of your time. Do not
Right. Yeah.
spend all of your time coming up with the company name. Focus on the product, focus on
Yeah.
who you're building for, right? Like keep the messaging and positioning really simple there, right? But like, and maybe that's like a whole nother episode too, is like how do you approach marketing like as like at the earliest of the earliest stages,
Okay.
right? Like I
Yeah.
think that could be a great episode for us to
Mm-hmm.
do. But yeah, don't get hyper obsessive over it. Don't take weeks, right? Like
Yeah.
try and find something that works, because it's just you're trying to find PMF, you're trying to even understand who you're targeting, and so it's just not worth your time.
What's
So
the
that's the
saying,
one thing I want to
Mallory?
say.
What's the saying? First time founder is focus on product. Second time founder is focus on distribution. Have you
Is
heard
that the
that?
saying?
Isn't that a thing? I thought that was maybe I saw it on.
No,
You
I
making
don't
something
know.
up, Charlie?
What's up?
You making something up?
No, I I saw it on
No, maybe it
Pinterest. I
is.
saw
No,
it
I'm
Maybe.
sure
on
it
a
is.
Pinterest board from this morning.
Anywho, okay, so we're gonna come back to this, but that is just, I think what we took away from this is at least we came up with a few words that we think could be interesting to kind of play with and or start with. And that's enough for me to at least kind of do some brainstorming. And
Cool.
then we'll come back and we'll keep you guys updated. And of course, when we change the name, you're gonna know.
You're
So
gonna know
Right.
anyway.
we're gonna know. Okay. All right. Next section. We can run through this pretty quickly because I think we've talked about a lot of this already. But the biggest question from this section, and we're kind of talking a little bit about positioning now, right, is like, who do we see as our closest competitors or creative peers? And maybe we don't have to say they're competitors, right? But like, who are our closest creative peers, and how will we be different? I think is really important. And so these are some of our peers that we've already been kind of taking a look at.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm sure there are plenty of podcasts too on LinkedIn that are AI oriented that are, this is just a quick Google search. But
Hmm.
do we know any off of the top of our head, Connor, Charlie, that we're
I,
aware of that we
Yeah.
should consider?
Go ahead, Charlie.
Okay. I mean, the first one that pops in my head, I've heard he's an awesome guy too. I've heard he's a super cool guy, super good dude, is Greg Eisenberg.
Yep, that's my number one too. I think
First one. So
Mallory,
good
don't
on
you know
him for
Greg?
popping in both of our heads when you ask a question like that.
Yeah.
Because
No,
yeah,
Greg's the goat.
Yeah, you know
is
Greg,
it?
don't
Yeah,
you?
I've
Yeah.
heard he's a
Yeah.
great dude.
He is a great dude. He is
That's cool. That's good.
he's just as down to earth as the way you see him on his YouTube videos. Like
That's cool.
he's a great dude.
And
So
obviously not a competitor, Greg. We very
no.
much enjoy your content. It's super
Mhm.
engaging. I think that's what we kind of aspire to get to, right? And it's just a different
Okay.
angle in regards
Oh
to
yeah,
who will be serving as opposed to who Greg serves.
yeah, I definitely get ideas from I've watched, well, not all of his videos. I watched a lot of his videos and I got ideas from it. And I mean I mean he has a
Yeah.
marketing background, doesn't he? And
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
100%. I think what he's doing is great, and yeah, I get ideas
okay,
from him.
that's helpful. I know there's also channels like the Starter Story,
Yep,
not
yep,
Starter
necessarily,
Story
I
is a good
think,
one.
yep.
okay,
Pat
yeah,
Walls,
okay,
yeah, that dude knows his stuff.
okay.
He's doing cool things. I try to get him on here. I think
Okay, well
my
we're
invitation got
manifesting.
lost. Yeah.
That's okay. It's okay. We're
Yep.
manifesting. We're gonna get there. Okay.
Yep.
But okay. So those two with those two in mind, like it's great because then I can kind of take a look and then it's like we're not, it's more so like how do we differentiate, how do we position ourselves, and how do we
Yeah.
take inspo too? It's like maybe Greg does a segment that we think is really interesting and maybe
Hmm.
we can flip it on its head and we can do something that and make it our own, right? But
I think they're great
um
examples too. Pardon me, Mallory. That
go ahead.
Greg is a marketer and Pat is a developer by trade. So
Okay.
they're both on the two sides of the app side,
Okay, cool. That's interesting actually as well. So
and you can see it come out in their content too.
yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Those two definitely stand out to me though. I would agree.
There's others now, but I don't really pay much attention to the other ones.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll do a little bit of digging, but I feel like that's a great place to start
Yeah,
for
I'd
us.
say so.
So, um, and then, okay, cool. So like the next question here, and this is an exercise, and we don't have to do this, but like this is great for the listeners to sort of do
Mhm.
is write a draft positioning line. Um, and this is like write a line, right? One sentence on it's like a tagline on how you would position yourself. Like, what do you do? Who are you for? And when I was at Bolt, Fiona, who is the wonderful designer that I worked with, and myself, we did this all hands activity where we vibe coded a way to sort of have you guys played Jackbox games before?
Yes, I love
Okay.
Jackbox
Mhm.
games.
Okay.
They're
So
awesome.
we yes. So we kind of vibe coded a small version of that where for the branding
Jackbox.
exercise we were doing, we asked the whole company during all hands like how do you we asked them like 3 or 4 brand questions on like how do you describe Bolt to a friend? And other sort of related
Hmm.
questions. Write a tagline. We asked everyone in the company to write a tagline. And we did it really in a fun way where we used Bolt to sort of like as people were typing in, you could start seeing everyone's responses in real time. But we used that copy to kind of think about, how we're going to actually position ourselves
Yeah.
outside
Yeah.
of like, understanding the competitor landscape and understanding who we're targeting, right? But like having employees or folks on the team get involved in like writing, even if they're not writers, right? It doesn't matter. Like we're just trying to figure out what that elevator pitch is that going to be, what that tagline is going to be, right? So this is a really fun exercise to do. Not
Okay.
like I said, we have to do it today, but I will ask you guys to do this as like
Yeah, yeah.
homework.
I think I
Yeah.
need to. Yeah, that's definitely home. Oh, I
Yeah,
got
homework.
homework.
Yeah,
Yes.
homework.
All
Like,
right.
why did we bring
Yesterday,
Mallory? She's just
yesterday
giving us
was
more
the
work to do.
Pinterest board homework. Today
She
is
just
now the
bullies
draft
us into
positioning
doing more
line.
work.
Yeah.
I don't call it
Okay.
bullying. I sure it's just making sure that things are moving along in the way they
Yeah,
should.
I like it. That's the right way to say it, Connor.
That's right.
Nice job. Okay. All right. Last section, and we're going to wrap this up, and then I'll kind of talk just very briefly on how this turns into deliverables. But the last sort of section in this workshop focuses on the visual direction. And so, what I really love to do is a few things. One, I love to kind of get a few inspo references, right? So, like, what brands or aesthetics do we admire? Are there specific like typographies or layouts or fonts or colors that like we think kind of encapsulate what everything that we just talked about, right? And so what I like to do is essentially kind of start creating a Pinterest mood board. This is supposed to be a very fun and creative sort of activity where you just start typing in like, here, I'll show you my search. Okay. Darker marketing aesthetic with a pop of color, right? So like I found an image like that or an image like this because we talked about at the beginning of this podcast episode on how we want to kind of keep that like darker aesthetic, but we just want to give it some boldness and pop of color, a little bit of fun.
Mhm.
And so I like to do this activity, just kind of get a sense of where is everyone at? Where like what does Connor think the aesthetic should be? What does Charlie think the visual sort of direction should look like? And after this activity, kind of taking a step back and seeing the similarities and themes between what the three of us have pulled, and so that we can move in a direction where we're like, actually, we really like this neon color. We're going to add this neon color to our color palette and mix it up with like the darker colors that we have. And so yeah, we kind of started doing this. I gave them homework yesterday.
It was
And
great. I had so
so,
much fun with that, Mallory. It was awesome to just look at things that I found
right?
visually like awesome and pleasing.
Yeah,
So
there's some cool stuff on Pinterest.
I guess too, like really out of when you're doing this exercise, have you ever come across where you just like you have a few people and they just pick totally different things? And you're like, well, I there is no meat in the middle here. I don't really know where to go with it. Or do you typically find something that'll help
No, I
kind
think
of that
I
meat in the
think
middle?
I think creatively you can always find something. I mean, look, and then there's the conversation of like these like aesthetics are so completely different, like where like how like and why, and then how can we bridge the gap?
Yeah.
But I've never like I don't know, I don't think I've ever seen mood boards that are just like super far off because I really think with creativity there's always a way to like find a theme and like put some sort of through line through all of it, you know?
Mhm.
Um, but okay, so Charlie's picks. We've got um we've got some red here, which is really interesting. So I'm seeing that we like the color red. Don't mind my crazy Pinterest shenanigans. Um, where else? What is this? Okay. We talked a little bit about this yesterday too, which like darker colors, and it's got this pop of orange, which like we think is really interesting. And then what else? What else do we got here? Okay, okay, we got this really cool image that um is okay, for some reason it's not loading, but it's got a mic, it's got some text, it's got some darker colors, but just like a hint of blue or green color here, which I think is nice. I like a nice little contrast too. Hard to see there for some
And look,
reason,
I've
but
I've been staring at this for, well, not at the Pinterest, in the sense of AI Code Central for the past 3 months. That one, the second one on the top to the right, that one, I thought that was pretty
this is
cool.
cool.
I thought,
This
and
is
like
cool.
doing that for guests, I thought
Yeah.
that was really cool.
Ooh, like this, even this image right next to it kind of reminds me of that. But this, like, this is interesting because it gives the founder this sort of bold
Yeah.
aesthetic. I think that's really interesting, but then also quotes them and has that pop of color. So it draws the eye, it gives attention to that. Because that's my problem with like anything that's just purely black or white. My eyes just kind of glaze over because
Mm.
there's nothing really capturing my attention. So that's what I really like about this image is that I see this bold black, this woman's face, then I see this just like red just screaming at me that and it doesn't make me feel bad, not in a way where I'm like, right, but in a way where I'm like, you got my attention. And I
Yep.
think that's
Mm.
important because we need that's what we have to do as marketers, right? Like if we're gonna promote this podcast, like we got to find ways to capture people's attention.
Yeah.
And to me, this image does this. So I actually really like this as an example a lot.
So, what I was saying before that is, I've been staring at this thing for, I don't know, 3 months straight now. So I'd like to hear y'all's opinions. Connor, what you had mentioned this morning that you went pretty deep on this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Saw
mean,
some
again,
cool
I
things,
I, I found something again that did add some pops of color. I know I didn't. We don't have them up here to go through, so I'll share the links afterwards. But it was definitely more pops of color. Didn't use. I really like what you guys both brought up, like the image you just showed with, the person on it, which could be a guest moving forward or something along those lines. So I didn't find too much of that. A lot of my stuff was more illustrative in nature,
Okay.
especially around like fonts and things, right? Because that I
Okay.
think that to me helps bring out a little bit of life in the brand without it being
Yeah.
so image heavy or like, hey, I'm going to have an image of someone that's right in your face, where the fonts can really do a lot of that work
Yeah.
for you
I
to bring
agree.
out
Like
that
it does nothing
personality.
for us here. Like look at the fonts do absolutely nothing for us here, I would say, right? Like looking
Yes.
back at it's kind of hard to read, it's smaller, it doesn't stand out. So I would agree with you, like especially if we don't go heavy on the color, like text and font is such a wonderful way to compensate for that.
Okay.
And that's how I think we can improve on our thumbnails, right? Like just
Yeah.
it's to the point, it's simple, it's not bad, right? But like it's not capturing my attention, it's not capturing my eye.
Yeah.
It's too a little too small, I think, as well. I really like though how over time, like you guys have started playing with adding the founder thumbnail in. Like that's great because I think that adds just like another level of like, okay, this is who they're
Just some
talking
color
about.
to it.
It
Yeah.
gives just some
Yeah.
color, even if they don't know who that person is. It just provides some amount of like humanness in a face. So look, like I started this exercise, and this is the direction that I was going in, and then we kind of talked through it, and I was like, you know what, this ain't it. And so I feel like what we have kind of at least agreed upon is like dark aesthetic, pop of color. What that pop of color may be, questionable. Neon, orange, red is what I'm seeing. And then like really sort of investing in like a few fonts that we think are going to like, allow us to kind of be playful in how we pull together the thumbnails and any other assets that we use. And I think that's a great start. Like that's a great starting point, even if like we're like, oh yeah, this what I pulled together is so different, right? From like what Charlie has pulled together here, right?
Yeah.
They are different.
And there is
Um,
some, you if you look at it, I mean, I did most of this last night. It's so heavy on the font and the illustration and illustrative font that I think that's kind of just in the back of my mind what I was thinking. There's some other things in here too, color palettes that I really gravitate towards, which again complements the darkness with some bright neon stuff. So we'll send that over, and I think you'll find some
that's
common
cool.
ground between what I have, you have, and Charlie has.
Cool.
And then I
Yeah.
even like pulled things like Spotify branding because they obviously focus so much on featuring artists, right? In our case, we're featuring builders and founders. And so how do we creatively sort of, build that or create that out in our designs? And so I was inspired by them too. And I think that's something to do, right? Like going back to the is like what are the references and brands and aesthetics that you admire that you think are great. And also a good starting point. And Pinterest has all of them, so just type in like Headspace branding or Pinterest branding, and you'll find
Hmm.
it. So even past campaigns of ads and things like that you can find on Pinterest. So
This was one of the best exercises, I think, too, to really dial into the branding aesthetic, right? It's just go
yeah.
create a board, just start looking through things, and again, then start trying to find the commonalities across all of it to really start building
Yep.
your own look and feel out.
Exactly. And I think that's
Cool.
kind of what we captured here,
Yeah.
which Connor, I'm really curious to see your pins and or whatever board you created as like a
How
follow-up.
do I
But
send? Well, oh, can I just
Yeah.
Slack it?
This is like really telling for a person,
Let's
right?
see.
It kind of like peels the
Slack.
curtain
what?
back on like what their like creative preferences and what they think about
Yeah.
this. And
I think I can
Yeah.
send this over right now.
yeah.
Hold on one second.
Yeah, I
That's
saw that second one in that one that you collect on. I was like, that's badass.
I don't know if you're
no,
able to
this is
pull
this is
pull it
badass.
up, but
Yeah.
anyway, you have it. I put it in our little chat.
Ooh. Oh, I do see some illustration here. This is fun.
Yo,
Yeah. So yeah, this
okay.
is
Oh,
different.
look
So
at
this is
that.
this is different. This is like I would say a great example of like, we're playing with the fonts here and we decided that that's what we want to do and that's really interesting, but you're right. Like there's this sort of illustrative vibe. Even like I'm getting like this futuristic what the heck is the name of the aesthetic? Vaporwave. Sorry,
Oh, yeah,
vaporwave.
yeah.
So this is giving kind of like vaporwave, which is really fun as well, but different. Like we don't have that aesthetic now. But like, it kind of still has the darkness that we would want with the color, which is
Hmm.
interesting. But this, like right here, which I love because I love illustration, but is very different
Yeah.
from kind of like the what we had started pulling together. So it's like this is the discussion, which is like, okay, do we want to do illustration? Do we have resourcing on hand to do illustrations? Right? Like, when do we use them? It's like we probably don't use them often. So what does that look like when we use them?
Hmm.
Right? But like what I really love about these two images, Connor. So for those that are listening, one of them is an image of a dude that just says fuck it. And then another one's of like a coffee cup with like a personality. And he's like, I'm a caffeine dealer. So and they're fun, right? And I think it provides this level of like, how do we infuse personality and boldness into what we're creating? But also, and like very different from what we were just kind of chatting through. So, how do we either forego it and be like, we're not going to go this direction, or are there ways to infuse that into what we're doing?
Yep.
So yeah, that's kind of the
Oh
discussion to
boy.
have if you're brainstorming with folks and you're kind of coming up with different directions, right? Um, and like I said, also a resourcing thing. If you don't think you can kind of, have that resourcing, it may not make sense to do that. Love to make dope stuff every day. I think that's like what I love about this is not the font per se, but I like the feeling that it gives, as in like, that's what we want. This is what we want our listeners to do. We want them to
Exactly.
make dope stuff every day and then market that out and scale it out to the world, right? Like,
Yeah.
so to me, this isn't really like, it's just like a feeling sort of thing. If that makes any sense. I don't know.
No,
How
absolutely
you
does. Again, I think it's some of that stuff comes across, that just evokes the emotion as opposed to you actually having to
Yeah.
put a graphic
Yeah.
design together for that to occur.
Exactly.
All
So this is a fun part of the process. I highly recommend you get creative on Pinterest and you can look up colors, fonts, typographies, campaigns, and all of that. If you're able to pull together a brief and you need a designer, for example, to update your brand guide or your logo, a lot of the times they'll have you go through an exercise like this anyway. So if you come prepped with a mood board and a direction to go down, like you will make a
Designers will
designer's day. They
love
will love
you
you.
if you can
Yeah,
do
they're gonna
that.
love you. They're gonna be like, wow, you're ahead of the game. Like you already have some ideas in mind, right? So, yeah, definitely a fun activity to do, and will be helpful for any designer that you decide to work with if you're gonna go through this process.
Yeah, this was
Um,
awesome, Mallory.
so yes, thank you everybody. In terms of like next steps for us, right, is like we need to come up with a naming shortlist, right? Can we come up with the name of like at least 10 names and then from there drill down on, the few that we are open to? And if not, like how can we change those to turn into a name that we're excited about, coming up with a tagline and sort of a positioning statement. We already have done this, but like we did create a mood board. Now it's kind of like how do we move forward with that aesthetic. And then eventually we'll update, our description on our YouTube channel and our website, et cetera. And I'll kind of probably create a mini roadmap on how we'll kind of figure out on how we update this across the board. And yeah, so thank you. This was a fun, creative
Love it.
process, and I hope it was helpful for those of you that are listening and trying to figure out how the heck do I tackle this how do I tackle brand, or how do I start? I think that's the best way to put it. It's like how do I
Yeah,
Boy,
yeah.
I learned a whole lot from how brands make me feel, and holy goodness gracious.
it's an awesome walkthrough to just kind of begin that process. And again, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is anyone can throw up a website, anyone can, do any of that kind of stuff, but it's like if it doesn't evoke emotion, it doesn't, correlate to what you're trying to sell or what your offer is, and it doesn't, again, kind of resonate with the end user, I mean, then what's the point, right? You're just kind of you're putting it out there for the sake of putting it out there. So this was awesome, Mallory.
Very
Good
cool.
stuff. Is
Thank
there a
you.
place, Mallory, can we put this template like in our show notes, or is there a place
Oh,
where
yeah, I'm happy to. Let me take I will take what we have created here and I'll create a template for all of you to at least use as a starting point. So,
cool.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, that does it. Episode 24, working title, AI Code Central Podcast. And we'll be back next week. We've got Ryan Carson on next week. So that'll be a good one.
So
Peace.
Let's go.
thanks, guys.